In this video, in the material experimentation series, we're going to be going over how to use oil pastel. Just as before, make sure you've picked your objects for your still life. I'm using the same objects in each of these videos. And because I'm doing a series of images off the same image, I've taken my original drawing and I'm tracing over it using a light box onto the correct type of paper for the material that I'm using. In this case with oil pastel, it's perfectly fine to just use a drawing cartridge paper, just a normal cartridge paper, because it will do what you need to do. However, with different materials, we'll need different surfaces. As always, it's always best to start with the background. Now you can see here that with the white pastel, I'm doing some hatch marks, some hatching lines, small short strokes to cover the entire surface. Once I've gone over with white, now I'm taking beige and doing the same small hatching lines across. I'm using hatching lines because I don't want to completely fill the surface with oil pastel because I want to be able to blend by layering. So after beige, I go back to white once again and I layer on top. And you can see that by layering again, particularly doing the hatching marks in a different direction, it causes the first two layers to blend and create a relatively smooth effect and the sort of color that I wanted for my background. The techniques of using hatch marks are really effective when working with oil pastels because they make very nice expressive strokes and give a lot of texture, but they also allow you to blend. So now I'm working on the imitation wood desk. Again, I'm using short single direction strokes to make these hatch marks all along. The area just below the bottles and cans is in shade, and there's a cast shadow there, so I'm applying darker values there, but I'm also trying to keep in mind the fact that this is the imitation wood, and so I want to make sure that it's in a range of browns. Now you can see that the oil pastel that I'm applying right now is not applying very cleanly. It's looking quite messy and not very well done. So if you need to erase some oil pastel, if you make a mistake, then what you want to do is grab a ruler and scrape off the layer. And by scraping it off, you get the color underneath much more subdued without as much of the mistakes showing, and it allows me to go over it once again, this time in a darker brown. I'm also using a different pastel, so I'm hoping maybe it's in a better age, so the condition is in a better situation. Once again, I'm using the white to go over my lines, and that's allowing me to blend those different colors that I've been applying together as I've been using these hatch strokes. In the valued area, I'm not using white, I'm using different versions of brown to go over them to allow the colors to blend. Now I'm beginning to do the foreground, which is the bottles and jar. I'm using the same technique of layering with a light tone first. Here I'm using a light blue, and then I'm going to build up layers of color using hatching marks in all the different colors and values within my image. And as I build them up, they slowly begin to blend as more and more layers mix together. It's really important when working in color to think about how the colors reflect on each other. So you can see that in the section where the two bottles were closest, I started using a dark blue with hints of purple to start reflecting that purple glass of the other bottle onto the blue bottle. Once again, I've gone back to my white oil pastel to allow for blending and ensuring I get the highlights right in all my values. So with my dark bluish purple bottle, I'm starting with a layer of light purple, except for the areas that I want to be shining white. As the surface of this bottle has really bright reflections on it because it's glass on the outside with purple on inside, I really want to try to leave those gaps as clear as possible with no oil pastel to make the reflection seem strong. This is further emphasized by applying values in the correct locations to create the effect of shadow and highlight and contrast in my image that will make for a strong 3D image. It's important when working with oil pastels to periodically shake off all the shadings that show up, particularly when you're ready to start adding details, as I'm doing here with darker values, but also with the ruler to scratch back the highlights to make sure they're the brightest spots possible. So you can see that I'm using the ruler to scrape off sections of oil pastel that have become too overlaid and have hidden my highlights, so I can bring them back stronger than they were. Now to do the shining metal of the paint can, I started with a layer of white, and now I'm layering over very lightly with gray.